Hello, and welcome to this in-depth exploration of the life and work of John Maynard Keynes. Keynes is a towering figure in the world of economics, often regarded as the father of modern macroeconomics. His ideas, particularly those outlined in his seminal work, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, revolutionized the way governments and economists think about economic policy, especially in times of crisis. In this video, we'll take a journey through Keynes' life, from his privileged upbringing in England, through his career as a public servant and academic, to his pivotal role in shaping the global economic order during and after the Great Depression and World War II. We'll also delve into his groundbreaking theories, such as Keynesian economics, and discuss why his ideas remain relevant in today's world of global economic uncertainty. Before we start though, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk about something that could really help the channel. If you've been enjoying the content and you'd like to support what we're doing here, we now have a Patreon page. The link is right under the video in the description. Now, I want to be totally upfront, supporting the Patreon doesn't get you any special perks or extra content at the moment. This is simply a way to help us maintain the channel, cover the costs of production, and keep things running smoothly. If you feel like pitching in, that would be amazing, and we'd appreciate it more than words can say. Every little bit helps. That said, your support is 100% voluntary. If you're not able to contribute, no worries at all. Just being here, watching, and sharing the videos means the world to us. The content will always be free for you to enjoy, so no pressure whatsoever. Thank you so much for being a part of this community, and whether you're able to support or not, we're grateful for each and every one of you. Now on to the video. So, let's begin by setting the stage with a look at Keynes' early life and the historical context in which he lived. John Maynard Keynes was born on June 5, 1883, in Cambridge, England, into an intellectually distinguished family. His father, John Neville Keynes, was an economist and academic at Cambridge University, while his mother, Florence Ada Keynes, was a social reformer and the first female mayor of Cambridge. Keynes grew up surrounded by ideas, books, and intellectual debates, which would shape his thinking throughout his life. Keynes was an exceptionally bright student from an early age. After attending the prestigious Eton College, he went on to study at King's College, Cambridge, where he initially pursued mathematics. However, it wasn't long before Keynes found himself drawn to economics under the mentorship of Alfred Marshall, one of the leading economists of the time. Marshall, who was often credited with formalizing the field of economics, recognized Keynes' talent and encouraged him to switch his focus from mathematics to economics. This decision would prove to be pivotal, as Keynes went on to become one of the most influential economists of all time. After completing his studies at Cambridge, Keynes embarked on a career in both academia and public service. He joined the British Civil Service in 1906, working in the India office, where he gained valuable insights into the workings of government and the complexities of international trade and finance. It was during this time that Keynes began to develop his interests in economic policy and international relations. He quickly rose through the ranks and became an advisor on economic matters, developing a reputation for his sharp intellect and ability to analyze complex economic problems. The Cambridge Apostles and the Bloomsbury Group. While Keynes was building his career, he also became involved in several influential intellectual circles. He joined the Cambridge Apostles, a secret society of intellectuals that discuss philosophy, politics, and culture. Through this group, Keynes formed friendships with some of the leading minds of the day, including philosopher Bertrand Russell and novelist E.M. Forster. Keynes was also a key member of the Bloomsbury Group, a circle of writers, artists, and intellectuals that included Virginia Woolf, Lytton Strachey, and Keynes' lifelong partner, the artist Duncan Grant. This group had a significant impact on British culture in the early 20th century, and Keynes' association with them shaped his views on art, society, and politics. Keynes' first major foray into public fame came after World War I, when he was invited to serve as a key economic advisor at the Treaty of Versailles negotiations in 1919. The treaty was intended to establish the terms of peace after the war, but Keynes became deeply disillusioned with the direction the negotiations took, particularly the punitive reparations imposed on Germany. In response, Keynes resigned from his position in protest and wrote a powerful critique titled The Economic Consequences of the Peace, published in 1919. In this book, Keynes argued that the harsh economic penalties placed on Germany would cripple the country's economy, leading to widespread poverty, social unrest, and future conflict. His prediction was tragically accurate, as the economic instability in Germany contributed to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the outbreak of World War II. The economic consequences of the peace made Keynes a public intellectual and established him as one of the most insightful critics of post-war economic policy. It also marked the beginning of his lifelong concern with international economic stability, a theme that would shape his later work. In the 1920s, the world enjoyed a period of economic growth and relative stability, but this came to a devastating halt with the Great Depression of the 1930s. The economic collapse was unprecedented in scale and severity, with unemployment soaring and businesses failing across the globe. The conventional economic wisdom of the time, rooted in classical economics, offered little in the way of solutions. Classical economists believed that economies would naturally self-correct through the forces of supply and demand. If unemployment rose, wages would eventually fall, making it cheaper for businesses to hire workers, thus restoring equilibrium. However, during the Great Depression, this theory simply didn't work. Instead, the crisis deepened, leading to widespread poverty and social unrest. It was in response to this failure that Keynes developed his most famous and revolutionary ideas. In his view, the problem wasn't just a temporary imbalance in supply and demand. Rather, he argued that the economy could get stuck in a state of prolonged underemployment and that government intervention was necessary to restore full employment. In 1936, Keynes published his magnum opus, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money. This book transformed the field of economics by challenging the core tenets of classical economics and introducing a new way of thinking about how economies function. At the heart of Keynesian economics is the idea that aggregate demand, the total demand for goods and services in an economy, is the primary driver of economic activity. Unlike classical economists, who believed that supply created its own demand, a concept known as Say's law, Keynes argued that insufficient demand could lead to long periods of economic stagnation. Keynes' key concepts: government intervention in the economy. Keynes famously argued that during periods of economic downturns, private sector demand might be too weak to support full employment. In such cases, the government must step in to boost demand. This could be done through fiscal policy, such as increasing government spending on infrastructure projects or cutting taxes to stimulate consumer spending. The multiplier effect. Keynes also introduced the concept of the multiplier effect, which suggests that government spending can have a larger impact on the economy than the initial amount spent. For example, if the government builds a new road, the construction workers get paid and spend their earnings on goods and services, which in turn boosts demand and creates more jobs throughout the economy. The role of interest rates. Keynes believed that central banks could also play a role in stimulating demand by lowering interest rates. Lower interest rates reduce the cost of borrowing, encouraging businesses to invest in new projects and households to take out loans for big purchases like homes and cars. This, in turn, stimulates demand and boosts economic growth. Countercyclical fiscal policy. One of Keynes' most enduring ideas was the concept of countercyclical fiscal policy. He argued that during economic booms, governments should save money and run budget surpluses. Then, during recessions, they should spend more and run deficits to stimulate the economy. This approach is often referred to as priming the pump, injecting money into the economy when it is most needed to keep it running smoothly. Keynes' ideas were revolutionary because they offered a concrete solution to the economic problems of the 1930s. His advocacy for active government intervention to stabilize economies gained widespread acceptance during the New Deal era in the United States under President Franklin D. Roosevelt and in post-war Europe. Governments around the world began to adopt Keynesian policies, using public spending to stimulate growth, create jobs, and reduce the impact of economic recessions. The onset of World War II provided a real-world laboratory for Keynesian economics. During the war, governments dramatically increased spending on military production, which led to a surge in employment and economic activity. Keynes argued that this wartime economic boom demonstrated the effectiveness of government intervention in boosting demand. After the war, Keynes played a key role in designing the international financial system that would guide the post-war global economy. He was one of the principal architects of the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944, where representatives from 44 nations met to create a new framework for international economic cooperation. Keynes advocated for the creation of institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank to stabilize exchange rates and provide financial assistance to countries in need. He also proposed a new international currency called the Bancor, which would serve as a global unit of account, but this idea was ultimately rejected in favor of the US dollar as the dominant global currency. Although Keynes did not live to see the full impact of his work, his vision for a stable and cooperative international economic system was largely realized in the decades that followed. In the years following World War II, Keynesian economics became the dominant economic paradigm in much of the world. Governments embraced Keynesian policies to manage their economies, leading to a period of unprecedented economic growth and stability known as the post-war boom or the golden age of capitalism. During this time, Keynesian ideas were used to combat recessions and ensure full employment. In the United States, for example, the federal government pursued policies that expanded social safety nets, invested in infrastructure, and promoted economic growth through public spending. In the United Kingdom, Keynes' influence was even more direct. The Labour Party, under Clement Attlee, implemented a range of Keynesian policies after the war, including the creation of the National Health Service, NHS, the expansion of social welfare programs, and the nationalization of key industries. However, by the 1970s, Keynesian economics came under increasing criticism. The global economy entered a period of stagflation, a situation in which high inflation and high unemployment occurred simultaneously, something Keynesian theory had struggled to address. Critics, particularly from the Chicago School of Economics led by Milton Friedman, argued that Keynesian policies had led to excessive government intervention and rising inflation. They called for a return to free market principles and less government control over the economy. In response to these criticisms, many governments began to shift away from Keynesian policies in the late 1970s and 1980s. Margaret Thatcher in the UK and Ronald Reagan in the US pursued policies of monetarism, deregulation, and tax cuts, which marked a significant departure from Keynesian interventionism. Despite the decline of Keynesianism in the latter half of the 20th century, Keynes' ideas have experienced a resurgence in recent years, particularly after the 2008 global financial crisis. The collapse of major financial institutions and the resulting economic downturn prompted many governments to adopt Keynesian-style stimulus measures to revive their economies. Countries like the United States and the UK implemented large-scale government spending programs to support struggling industries, boost employment, and stabilize financial markets. Central banks also cut interest rates to near zero levels and pursued quantitative easing to increase liquidity in the financial system. Keynesian policies have once again proven their value in times of crisis, showing that governments can play a vital role in stabilizing economies and preventing deeper recessions. John Maynard Keynes passed away in 1946, but his ideas continue to shape the way we think about economics today. Whether through the management of economic cycles, the role of government in stabilizing economies, or the importance of international cooperation, Keynes' contributions have left an indelible mark on modern economics. In today's world, where economic instability, inequality, and global financial crises are ongoing concerns, Keynesian ideas remain as relevant as ever. Economists and policymakers continue to debate the appropriate balance between government intervention and market forces, and many of the policies Keynes advocated for, such as stimulus spending in times of crisis, are still widely used. Keynes' legacy is not just that of an economist but of a visionary who understood the complexities of modern economies and sought to create a framework for managing them in a way that promoted stability, prosperity, and social welfare. John Maynard Keynes' life and work represent a turning point in economic thought. His revolutionary ideas about government intervention, aggregate demand, and economic management transformed the way we understand markets and economies. In times of crisis, his ideas have provided a roadmap for recovery and stability. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the life and legacy of John Maynard Keynes. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more explorations of the ideas that have shaped our world.